I think a lot of her work speaks to a timeless way of presenting yourself, really building a strong personal brand and turning your reputation into revenue. When I met Elise, it was actually through LinkedIn, so through a social media platform. I was meeting her at a time that was a pretty interesting transition period for her. She was with a very successful 8-figure business, and her and some of her team members actually sort of went dark for 3 or 4 months. They weren't online, they weren't talking about anything. Turns out they had all made this plan to leave that company and collaborate on a new company. And so Elise, came back online like 3 to 6 months later as the founding team member of a company called Brand Builders. And I've actually experienced Brand Builders Group for myself and the work that they provide, the thought leadership that they've given to people like Lewis Howes, who's a massive podcaster. He's been on The Ellen Show. Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank has benefited from Brand Builders Group. I myself have benefited from Brand Builders Group, and Elise has been part of Meeting of the Minds for the last year or so. It's just been an absolute honor to see you grow. Elise has started hiring people and creating these systems to scale her business, so she's really catching her groove and is about to blow up. So I can't wait for you to learn from Elise and meet Elise and follow up with her afterwards. Be ready for a game-changing talk. So thank you, Elise, and come to the stage. Woohoo! There you go.
Good morning, Bermuda. How are you? Woo! I like that intro. I sound very mysterious. I went dark for 3 to 6 months. It sounds super mysterious. Guys, it is such an honor to be with you today. And I tell you what, the number one thing, if you take nothing else from my talk today, the number one key to building an influential brand online is to be a great person in real life. I mean, that is it. And the fact that you are here today spending your time, spending your money, spending your resources to be part of this group, I already know that you guys are exceptional human beings. And so it is such an honor just to be able to spend time with you and hopefully provide a lot of value to you. Now, I'm kind of curious, and this is maybe a little bit of a selfish question, but how many of you have any degree of fear about public speaking? Raise your hand. Okay, so I'm not alone. So I always get a little nervous when I speak, but I read this study by Harvard recently where they studied all these different audiences, and it made me feel a little bit better because what they found was out of every audience, only 11% actually remembers anything that you have to say. So it's like, okay, already, I know that most people won't remember anything, and that's okay. Another 22%, while you're talking, they're too busy thinking about their own personal problems. So it's like you're up here, you're talking, you're doing your thing, and they're just not even there with you. But the piece that really set my mind at ease was that the remaining 67% at any given time in your talk is having sexual fantasies. And so what that said for me is that, for me, it really doesn't matter if I'm any good up here or not, because at least 2/3 of you are going to be having a great time. And we are going to have a great time together today, and I am going to share with you some things that my team and I have discovered and put together about how to become rich, famous, and influential. And I want to give a nod to what Keynote said before about triggers, because, I mean, are there any 3 more triggering words than rich, famous, and influential? I know when I say that, some of you are like, ooh, she said you need to be rich. Ooh, she said you need to be famous. But I tell you what, if you are being called to make an impact in the world today, if you are being called to build your business and build your brand and to become this entrepreneur that you are feeling called to be, you need to have a lot of money. Can we just call it like it is? Like, you need to have a lot of money. You need to be wealthy. You need to have resources to invest in your business, to scale a team, to travel to events and conferences like this, to give back to charities that you care about. You need to have people who know about you, right? You need to have a brand. And so when I say those words, it's not in the slimy way, but it's in the way where you are truly being called to be of service. And I want to share with you what I've learned just studying so many people who have done this really well about how to do it. And I'm also just going to call it out. I woke up this morning and I had lost my voice. So if you guys can kind of have some grace with me today, I'm going to be doing little water breaks in and out. But I was like, I got to show up for you guys and I've got to be here because I think this is such an important message. And so here's the biggest thing, the biggest challenge is that a lack of revenue is not your biggest problem. A lack of revenue is not your biggest problem. A lack of reputation is your biggest problem. Okay? Reputation always precedes revenue. If you are not hitting the financial goals that you have in your business, it is simply because not enough people know about you, trust you, or understand what you do. And so really today's talk is going to be about how do we cultivate a reputation. And look, reputation takes a long time to build, okay? So I'm not going to give you any shortcuts, or I'm not going to tell you that it happens overnight, but I'm going to teach you the ins and outs of how to build a rock-solid reputation. And something that we've created at Brand Builders Group is we kind of looked at it and we said, well, what even makes up a reputation? Like if someone wants to build an influential reputation in their space, how do they do it? And I think it's two different things. It's something we call the reputation formula. And it is simply that results multiplied by your reach equals your reputation. So results times reach equals your reputation. So let's break that down a little bit. What does that mean? So when it comes to your results, what I want you to think about are, what are the things in your own life that you have the right to talk about? They can be what challenges you've overcome, kind of like what Matt was talking about earlier today. What are the adversities you've overcome? What's your superpower? What are the results you've gotten in your own life? And when you think about results, and this is something that Keynote talked about before and the minister talked about before, and so I'm the third person up here saying it, so it seems to be the theme for today. I wish I had known this earlier, that the number one secret to building a best-selling personal brand is knowing that your personal brand is not about you. It's not about you at all. And that should hopefully be a bit of relief for any of you who are feeling like, okay, I see these people building personal brands. I see them doing it, but I feel so uncomfortable. I don't want to put myself out there. I feel awkward. Does anybody feel like that? Like the thought, okay, yeah, right? And it happens, and people do feel that way, but the key is to know it's not about you at all. It's about the problem that you solve for other people. And when I'm working with my clients, I like to help them get it all the way down to one word. What is that one word problem that you are going to be known for solving in the world? I'll give you some examples of people who have done this well. Actually, I won't. I'm going to do something with you quickly, and then I'll give you some examples. So here's the thing with the problem, is that finding a problem that you are known for solving, being known for solving one problem is very simple, but it is not necessarily easy, okay? And so to demonstrate, I'm gonna have everybody stand up. We're gonna do just like a quick little fun exercise here, okay? So stand up. So I want you to turn and look to the person on your left. All right, so check them out. All right, now turn and do the same thing for the person on your right. All right? And now, guys, this is going to be the hard part. I want you to think, and I want you to turn and look back at the sexier of the two. Okay, you guys can sit down if you've done it. So I love this exercise because it's so awkward, right? It's so awkward. It's like, you know, some of you are sitting next to strangers and you're like, well, this is a little weird. Some of you are sitting next to your spouse, so you're kind of feeling obligated. You're like, okay, well, I got to look at you. You know, half of you are looking at me with thank you, but so it's like things that are simple are not always easy. So it can be hard to figure out what is that one word problem that you're going to be known for solving, but I promise you, it is a game changer. So with that, here are some examples. Who knows who this woman is? Brene Brown, absolutely. This woman has spent her entire career studying the problem of, does anybody know the problem she solves? It's shame. It's the problem of shame. She is a researcher on the problem of shame. And what you want to do is when you get clear on that problem that you solve for the world, you actually have to go about promoting it. She studies shame. She writes about it. She talks about it. You want to promote the problem that you solve and talk about it as much as you talk about the solution. And so it's about it's like, as an entrepreneur, it feels so counterintuitive, right? Because we're so used to finding solutions. That's what we do. But what you want to do is figure out and become intimately familiar with the ins and outs and the details of the problem that you solve for the world. Here's another example. Who knows this man? Anybody? No financial advisors in the room who hate him? No? Yep, so Dave Ramsey, so he's a friend of ours, and he is someone who has built a massive personal brand off of the solving the problem of what? Debt, right? It's like, if you are struggling with debt, and you go to your friend and you say, hey, I'm really struggling with this, I need some help, probably the first thing they're gonna do is tell you, you need to follow Dave, right? You need to start following Dave. Or this guy, Lewis, like Jared mentioned before. Lewis has built his brand off of solving the problem of self-doubt. Or this woman, Mother Teresa, right, and poverty. And so this is really the key, is to get super clear on what is that one-word problem that you are going to be known for solving, that your name is going to be synonymous with in the world. Now, I said before, there are two parts to this formula, though, right? So you've got results multiplied by your reach equals your reputation. Now, when we talk about reach, the way that I think about it is that it's how many people know about what you do. Because if you're great at what you do, you can be the best in the world at what you do, but if no one knows about it, you're kind of the best kept secret, right? Which isn't of service to you, and it's certainly not of service to anybody else. So when it comes to reach, you know, there's a great story I like. For who in here's an author? Is anybody in here an author? Okay, right on. So there's a great story about Robert Kiyosaki. I don't know if anybody's read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or if you're familiar with him. Yep. Awesome book. But he was at a book signing, and he tells this story of being at the book signing, and this woman comes up to him, and she says, you know, I read your book, and I didn't think it was all that well written. And he says, well, you know that's okay, because if you look at the cover, it doesn't say New York Times Best Writing Author. It's New York Times Best Selling Author. So your reach and how many people know about what you do is equally as important as the results that you've gotten in your life. And sometimes people ask, well, which one matters more? Like, I have great results, I'm good at what I do, isn't that enough? It's not. And I would also point to this woman. Who in here knows who she is? Right? I mean, I think it was this year that she became a billionaire, right? And I have mad respect for what she's done. I think a lot of people think about the Kardashians in general, about being famous for being famous. But you can't knock the reach when you see what this woman has been able to do with how many people she has access to, okay? So this is really it. It's results times reach equals your reputation, which in turn equals your revenue. Because at the end of the day, if people don't know about you, they can't do business with you. Brand Builders Group Trademark 2019. So, with that said, with what I'm saying here, whether you like it or not, this is important. And this is the thing, it's like sometimes in life, we all have to do things we don't like to do. For some of you, you are super uncomfortable right now thinking about what it would be like to build a strong personal brand, or to have, millions of people who follow your message, or to have a lot of money. And like I said, it doesn't really matter if you like it or not, it is important. And it kind of reminds me of a conversation I was having with my nephew this year on Halloween. And he's super cute, 2 years old, his name is Jasper. He had an idea of what he wanted to be for Halloween. His parents, however, had a different idea. And so what we got to share with Jasper was the lesson that sometimes in life, you have to do things you don't want to do, okay? So this is really it, and the key, it's like the size of your personal brand will dictate the size of your business. So I'm going to share with you some things that we've seen that really help you build a more influential personal brand. Is that cool? No. Okay, no. Okay, so the first key and the first problem that you typically face, especially today, it's noise, right? It's the problem of noise. It's for those of you who are, let's say, it doesn't matter if you're an attorney, it doesn't matter if you're a CPA, it doesn't matter if you're, a coach, an online entrepreneur. The biggest challenge that we face today is noise and obscurity. It's not being known. It's how do you stand out from the crowd? And so There's a guy who really studies this named Peter Sheehan. So we named this model after him. We call it Sheehan's Wall. But basically what he says, and I think he says it so well because it's super simple, is that in every industry, you've basically got this invisible wall. And on one side of the wall, you've got people who are known. And then on the other side, you've got people who are more unknown. And what's happening is on the side of the unknown, everyone wants to break through. They see what's possible on the other side. They have aspirations of being on the other side. So they're trying to break through, but the problem is that most of them are never clear on some of the specifics of their brand. So they're talking about too many topics. They're getting speaking events on 10 different topics: finance, health, business. They're talking about that on their social media. They sell all these different products. They don't have one primary business model. They have all these different social media profiles. They're like, should I do Twitter? Should I do Instagram? Should I do YouTube? Should I do a podcast? I don't know. I'm just going to do them all, but not do them all that well. They have different business models. They have different jobs. Like, they do all the things in their business. Does anyone feel like right now they're doing all the things in their business? Raise your hand with pride. That happens, right? That always happens at the beginning, and that's okay, but you can't stay there. And then the final thing is it's just too many ideas, right? So it's too many ideas and not enough execution going on. So the people who do break through the wall are the ones who get really, really focused. And they go about becoming known for one thing. They get hyper-focused, they go all in, and it's literally just it's a matter of time. If you have enough consistency and clarity and velocity, you're gonna break through that wall. And once you're on the side of the known, I call it like the Oprah effect. It's kind of like you can talk about whatever you want, you can sell whatever you want, you can do whatever you want, and because you are you, people will listen. And this is such a big misconception because you look at the people you follow online and you're like, well, Tony Robbins is talking about money and health and fitness and business, so that must be the way to get there. But the truth is, every person that you respect and admire who's more on that side of the wall, they focused first. And here's how you know. Some of you are like, okay, well, how do I know when I break through the wall? The side of the unknown, it's a push. This is where everything feels hard. You're still having to introduce yourself. You're still having to hustle. You're still having to, try to book the gigs, get the clients. It's kind of like you're still in that red ocean, that obscurity. The side of the known, it's a pull, baby. It's different. Everyone is coming to you. You're a magnet. You're not a megaphone. And so this is really the key: is how do you break through that wall? And it takes focus. It takes very, very specific focus to get to the other side where it's a blue ocean and everything is different. Okay? So the question becomes, how do you do that? And I don't have time to go into all of it today. I'm going to try to give you guys as much as I can on how to do that. I do have a free video course for you if you want to learn more of the in-depths of how do you break through the wall and what are some of the keys and what are the things that our clients like a Lewis or like a Kevin that we've worked on with them to help them break through to that next level of the wall. So if you guys want to get it, you can get it at ea.brandbuildersgroup.com. Those are my business partners, Rory and AJ. Those are Jasper's parents. And I think the course is phenomenal, but I would recommend go ahead and write it down, or you can go ahead and grab it right now. And it's going to teach you some more of the ins and outs of how to do this. All right, so how do we break through the wall? How do we stand out from the crowd? Does anybody know who this guy is? Anybody? His name is Larry Winget. He is probably, I would say, in the sales space, one of the bigger brands and influencers. My whole philosophy is based off of what he says. He says this is the key. It's to find your uniqueness and exploit it in the service of others. Find your uniqueness and exploit it in the service of others. This is it. It's not, today you can't focus on how can I be better, right? Because there's always going to be somebody who's better than you, and there's always going to be somebody who's worse than you. But it's more about how are you different. It's kind of like Sally Hogshead says, different is better than better. And so what we've put together is this exercise. It's 6 different questions that you can ask yourself to figure out what is your uniqueness and how do you stand out from the crowd. And we call it the brand DNA Helix, and it's kind of like just like each one of us has our own unique genetic DNA, we also each have our own unique brand DNA. So the first question is, like we already talked about, what problem do you solve? It's the most foundational, it's the most important of all of them. But the balancing question to that is, well, what are you actually passionate about? right? I mean, most of you in here, you could probably solve 50, 100 different problems, but it's what are you actually passionate about? Now, passion can happen one of two ways. Passion can be positive. It can be what lights you up, what gives you joy, but it can also be what pisses you off. You know, AJ, who I showed you in the picture before, when we were talking about this for her own brand, it was like, there's nothing, you know, maybe it's funny, but there was nothing that really like gave her a ton of joy, but there were a lot of things that made her mad. So we're like, okay, passion can be both ways. So think about, this is really about what is your message of your brand going to be? This is what do you want to talk about? The next set of questions, though, are more about, well, what do you have the right to talk about? Two things to look at here. The first is more on the academic side, like what have you researched? What have you studied? I say metaphorically the letters behind your name. I work with a lot of phenomenal entrepreneurs who dropped out of school, who don't have a degree. You don't need that, but think about what do you read about a lot? What do you study? What do you have certifications in? What kind of podcasts do you listen to? If you do have a degree, what was it in? But the balancing question to that is, well, what do you actually have results in? And again, this can be in your own life. This can be what challenges have you overcome? What superpowers do you have? What are you naturally really good at that other people think is hard?